I have a lot of questions about death.
You curse my name, and every time I hear each cry aggrieved, each wailing at a loss, yet still I do my work, for well I know how aging and decay are equal parts of life as birth and growth are seen to be. I take no pleasure in this endless work, and nor think I that life takes joy in hers. But still it must be done, and so we choose which tale will end today, and which begins. If trees would never fall, there'd be no mulch to feed new seedlings' growth, no logs to serve as homes for woodland creatures on the ground. If creatures never died, there'd be no food for omnivores or carnivores who need their iron and their protein to survive. If humans never died, there'd be no chance for others to arise and take their place and learn from their example, from their love that comes from knowing life is short, and someday you will end, yet never end, for life will never end, and nor will death.
I have questions. Lots and lots of questions. I have a lot of questions about death. I have a lot of questions about what we're supposed to be teaching people about death in a family, about death and dying. I reckon it's a subject that, especially if you're West African, is kind of distasteful to just casually sit and talk about. Perhaps in every single culture, it reminds you of your mortality, but in some more than others, there's a reason why some people obviously don't have elaborate death plans, don't have life insurance and stuff like that, and don't have these discussions with their children. And so when they pass on, a lot of children, a lot of people within the family don't even know what they're getting, what assets are in their name, nothing of that sort, don't understand the inheritance, don't understand anything. It all boils down to not having conversations about death and dying, especially given that it's an incredible normal part of life. I don't know if you can hear me better. And so so this is why I have questions. I have a lot of questions, especially because I'm in a phase of life where last month I have literally gotten news of like 5 different deaths just within the family. And these are the ones that my mother has told me about. And I cannot even imagine the deaths that she has not spoken to me about, because she will speak on people that I know. I cannot imagine the people that she knows and my father know, their friends. A lot of them are just transitioning to a new world, a spirit life, probably a reincarnation. I don't know. Everyone's transitioning, and I want to be there for her. And I'm like, Mom, if you want to talk, because a lot of the people are much closer to her, but I love them. I grew up with these uncles, aunties who I knew were very close friends of my mom, and she's in a phase of her life where a lot of her very close friends are just passing on. It used to be my dad telling me all these stories of all his friends passing on, and now my mom's telling me of all her friends passing on, and most of them are men. And it just hurts to witness, and it's strange. I have a very interesting perspective on death, and I think my mom has the same nowadays. And I guess she has to. Maybe she's insensitive a little bit. She's a bit removed because it's too much, right? It's happening back to back to back. The emotions are not as intense. They are becoming quite normalized, right? And this is the time in her life. This is the space. This is the moment where she's transitioning. She's in a new phase of life now where she's watching transitions to the next world, to the spirit world, she's just in this new phase of her life where she's ushering her friends and her loved ones into a new space. And I'm sitting here also with news of friends that I grew up with, right? Like their parents passing, my uncles passing. Like in 1 week I had 2 deaths. And I just said, I don't know I don't know how to go about this. The truth of the matter is, when someone passes, especially in West African culture, when someone passes in a capitalist society, there's no time to mourn, really. It's finances now. It's like, oh gosh, there are logistics. There are a lot of things to think about that you're just like, oh no, they passed. Sad, super sad. Now, how do we bury them? How do we be there for the people that they left behind? How are those people taking, like, it's wild. And that's when it happens to someone you love and someone else. But now you always think when it happens to you, like, okay, so do I have money set aside? Do my parents do the people who I love have money set aside? Do they have life insurance that can cover the cost of this so we can actually mourn? So we can actually celebrate their lives. So we can actually be and transition, because as they're transitioning, our lives are also transitioning, right? They're transitioning to something different, something higher. Transitioning our lives, like, oh my God, what has been on earth going to be like without them in flesh? Even if you don't see them all the time, their physical presence, their flesh is here. And that's incredibly comforting. So how do we now deal with them in spirit? How do we channel them? How do we speak to them? How do we relate? How do we help those around them to go through this, to be okay with the transition and to successfully transition into a new state of being, into a new reality? No one's teaching death and dying. I'm sure someone's teaching death and dying, but who's teaching us this? Who's passing on exactly how? Exactly how to deal with this phase of life. You're in your 40s, you're in your 30s. You need to have a budget for funerals. You need to have a budget for funerals for loved ones. You gotta anticipate that every year, at least, maybe 10 people will pass, 5 people will pass. So is your budget ready to disseminate to help those people who you can be physically present for, those you can be present for, whatever the case may be? Like, now you allot time. Adulting is also allotting time and allotting money and allotting energy to deal with death and dying. No one I know, I have never heard of any family, any person, anyone talking about this. God, you're doing so well. And when I listen, like at this stage, when people say, oh, this person passed, even if it's their very close person, there are no tears. It's just, yeah, they passed. It's fucked up. It's terrible. But logistics, how are we taking care of this? Who is taking care of that? Who's doing this one? What's happening there? You have to talk logistics. When you don't have the money to disseminate or to give, what happens? What do you do? When you're not able to be physically present, how do you go about that? What do you do? If the person is in a completely different country and you live in their hometown, how do you facilitate this? What do you do? Who do you talk to? Do you talk to Umwada? Do you talk to who do you talk to? What groups, what elders do we go to? What fees do we have to pay for them to be buried in that soil? Even if they're not there, let's say you're not bringing their body home, but what rites are we going to perform for them in their own land? I have so many questions. I don't even have the energy or the capacity to sit through this, but we need to talk about this. I'm going to do something about this. And if you want to be a part of it, comment down below, because I'm going to do something about this. There has to be a plan. There has to be something. There has to be a modus operandi. There has to be a learning somewhere. There has to be something somewhere about how to deal, how to activate, how to perform rites, how to think about it, how to support people who are going through this. And if you're not able to support financially or physically or whatever, what do you do? What is enough? What do you do? I have so many questions. I guess maybe I'm just not in the space, in the mind space to articulate this well or to really ponder this publicly, but I'm in a weird space. And it's so crazy because every time there is this type of terrible news, like horrible news, I'm seeing a white balloon fly in the air right now outside. It's just flying. It's just going up and up and up. And I'm speaking on death. And a white balloon is going up and soaring into the skies. Oh my God. I was just going to say that every time I hear the news of someone passing, and it's so painful, but also yet so common now, it's like right around the corner, something also amazing is happening. There is a birth, there's a birthday, there is someone celebrating a huge milestone, a huge success milestone, etc. I'm speaking on death. There's a white balloon flying out. The face of God is truly order and chaos. Every time that I'm in a space where I'm seeing or I'm hearing about someone passing and I'm like, oh God, I have to activate. How do I activate? But wait, I need to say the prayer. I need to say a prayer to tell them I see them and help them transition, help my mind understand that they're transitioning. I have to take a moment to meditate, to usher them and to usher myself into a new reality. And right around the corner, there's someone celebrating a massive milestone. Maybe there's something amazing going to happen to me in a bit, but it's like, you're constantly reminded of the balance of the universe, of your mortality, of life itself, and how you should just live in love. Because the first feelings that flood my mind, especially like when my mom gave me some news a week ago about her really one of her best friends, and he passed, and she just remembered how a couple weeks ago, like, he just called her up and said, hey Ada, these kids have sent money, let's go spend it. And she told my dad, like, hey, he said like we should come meet him, like let's go do something. They all went out together, as two couples, and they just had fun. They had a lot of food. They had just went to a hotel and just like drank, had fun, ate a lot of everyone. They're just talking, banter, joy. And they've always been like this joy. They've always had this very joyful, happy, thrilling, loving friendship. And I just remembered all the good memories I had of him growing up, the book he wrote and gave me when I was going to college. And when I said, oh, I think I'm going to study comms, and he wrote this book on mass comms and he gave it to me, very technical. And I'm like, yes, more technical than what I studied, really, like super technical. I absolutely loved it. I think I still have the book somewhere. All I remembered was love. All I remembered was love. That's all I remembered about him. It's just love. That's all I felt when I heard about his transition, was love. Love and chaos. This is the face of God. Love and chaos. This is the balance. My question is, how exactly do we deal with this as an adult? How do you adult through death and dying? That is the question. How do we adult through death and dying? All right. I don't know what I'm talking about today. I should have said a prayer for Spirit to lead, but maybe the message got across. And if it did and you have answers or you want to join me and let's figure this thing out, drop a comment. Has anyone in your family sat you down and prepared you for death and how to deal with it? When an uncle dies, what to do? When an auntie dies, what to do? When a kid dies, what to do? What rites to perform, what to make sure that you're there for, your position in their life, and what you can and cannot do. Also subscribe, because I will have a much richer, better, well thought out, solution oriented video about this when I get there, and I'll get there soon because I have to know what to do. Until next week, it's Chichi Mambo for Salt and Culture. Do something loving for yourself today.